We're good? Yep, you're good. Hi, thanks everybody for joining us, and I'm thrilled to have Candice Johnson, the president and CEO of Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center with us, just for an exciting announcement today at the White House with the president. And as I was telling Candice before all of you were let in, every advancement that President Biden talked about that started 5 years ago with the first moonshot was Roswell Park is at the forefront of nationally. As all of you know, Roswell in 2020 was ranked 14th best cancer center in America, one of 51 NCI comprehensive cancer centers. That's the top 4% of all cancer centers in the nation. The president announced an initiative today of $6 billion to advance new therapies under the area of immunotherapy. Again, Roswell Park is at the forefront of that nationally under Candice Johnson's leadership. And he's asking Congress to approve $6 billion net new money to advance promising new treatments. And Roswell Park, I am confident, will disproportionately benefit from all of this because the history of Roswell is extraordinary. Chemotherapy, combination chemotherapy, the prostate-specific antigen, which has saved about 30% increase in survival for various cancers. It's just, very, very exciting. And I couldn't be more happy about this announcement today as it relates to the positioning that Roswell already has as a premier comprehensive cancer center in America, but also to benefit from promising new research. And I know Candace believes this, but when new cancer, life-saving cancer treatments are approved, we want them to be approved based on clinical trials and research that's conducted at Roswell Park. Candace.
Yes, thank you all for today for tuning in. This is Vice President Harris was exactly right. This initiative is going to save lives. It's so exciting. Cancer affects every single one of us. We've had great strides, great innovation in the cancer world. We're using our immune system now to help fight cancer, and some really exciting discoveries have come out of that research. And, we're well positioned for this. COVID has been very hard on cancer patients and on cancer in the field of cancer because people didn't get screened. And so enhanced screening is something that we really need to focus on, and we are focusing on here. And through the generosity of our Governor, Kathy Hochul, who's just been out in the forefront of this, we're going to have a statewide initiative to enhance lung cancer screening, which is so critical and so important. So I'm very excited for this announcement, and I think it's going to help jumpstart a lot of exciting research.
Do we take questions now?
Yeah, I can talk, I can keep talking. But let us know what you want us to do. We can always keep talking.
The president had underscored all the things that you talk about, early detection,
Yes.
that less than 10% of cancer deaths are attributed to the original tumor. But it's when cancer advances, when it metastasizes, it becomes lethal. Talked about lifestyles. You eliminate smoking, you eliminate 30 to 40% of all cancer deaths and about 89% of lung cancer deaths. And all of the things, the screening, the sharing of information that's critically important between institutions, between researchers, will result in bringing to the fore treatments that are currently, in various stages of discovery right now. And, you look back on, he also talked about the messenger RNA. And last time we were together after the pandemic, we were talking about how that was one of the greatest biomedical advancements in 100 years. And the messenger RNA is now, being used as a basis from which to develop treatments for Alzheimer's, for Parkinson's, and for cancer. So I think it's a very exciting time for the federal government to take a $6 billion initiative, and it's an important time for Roswell to take advantage of the position that you've established for that storied institution in Buffalo, but also from throughout the nation as well.
Yes, I think cancer research is really, there have been so many advances and so much promise, especially in using our immune system to fight cancer. And these are treatments that are inherently not as toxic as some of the chemotherapies are, and the results can be some of the most dramatic. And I think that the promise that we have going into the future is that we're going to be able to extend some of those really incredible T-cell therapies that we have into other diseases and be able to do those clinical trials to be able to extend those. And, that takes money, and it takes federal grants. And this is going to be amazing to be able to have the moonshot to be able to help facilitate this. And it depends, a lot of the things that we do also depends on partnership with industry or big pharma. And that'll be important for us as well, to help for NCI designated centers to partner with these other entities to really carry these therapies to their conclusion.
That's outstanding. And there was a great sense of enthusiasm in the room as well. And as you know, the president had a tragic experience with cancer,
yes.
brain cancer in his son. So he was, his message was particularly emotional, but also underscored by a great sense of possibility. And I think that's an important message as well, because the one thing that you always get from the interaction individually and collectively from Roswell is the word hope and
Yes.
possibility. And I think, that is your great tradition. That is something that you helped usher in your time as leader of Roswell, but of your time preceding you becoming leader as well.
Yeah, I think it's I think the NCI designated centers, these funds, the Moonshot funds, are going to help all of us. This family of NCI designated centers that's scattered all over the United States, and I think we celebrated that together. You and I did as well in the 50th anniversary. And many, many discoveries have happened, and these are really centers of excellence and innovation. And it was thought of that they would be within a day's drive of every American. And I think it's important to have these centers because they are really the nidus of discovery. And people can come to these NCI designated centers like a Roswell Park, and they're going to know that the experts in the field are behind those walls, and that they know more about their particular cancer than anyone else does. And that if they don't have the answers, they know how to find the answers. And so it's really a resource for everyone to use. And I think that these funds are going to help with those initiatives as well.
Yeah, just to underscore that, both in terms of funding that Roswell will receive from New York State, funding that Roswell will receive from the federal government through the National Institutes of Health and the National Cancer Institute, also the volunteer efforts. And we talk about it very often, the Roswell Park Alliance, which was born out of tragedy. Anne and Donna Joya established that. And that was over 40 years ago. And at that time, if you were designated with, or if you were diagnosed with cancer, less than 50% of those lived beyond 5 years of their diagnosis. Today, for kids, it's about 80–85%. And you talk about a beautiful gift over 40 years, some $455 million raised by the Roswell Alliance to go to promising new research to develop more effective, less toxic therapies that have saved lives and produced great outcomes for people who not only are afflicted with cancer, but those who love the afflicted.
Yes, no, it's the Joyas have really, this place wouldn't be what it is today without them. And those philanthropic contributions just mean the world in helping to fund some of the innovative pilot studies that we have that then go on to get federal funding. And I think sometimes people too have the misconception that we don't work together with other scientists and physicians around the country. It's really not true. It's the way we, for example, our brain tumor vaccine that is going into phase 2 studies is going to open in over 20 institutions around the country. And this is a vaccine that has hope for people with glioblastoma, the very tumor that took President Biden's son's life. And so the studies were very significant. The early phase studies were very significant. There's still even some folks alive today that benefited from this vaccine approach. And this study that's opening across the country was all the science was done here. All the preliminary research was done here. And we funded that early phase study from alliance funding that enabled us to be able to develop the protocols for all these sites around the country. So I think we do work together, and that's the way this drug will ultimately, hopefully, get FDA approval if the studies bear out what we think they might.
Yeah, and one of the things that I focused in on based on the president's remarks today, Candace, was this initiative. I call it the Cancer Moonshot 2.0.
Yes.
Seeking to reduce cancer deaths by 50% over the next 25 years. And I think about, the American Cancer Society's previous campaign, the 2015 campaign, which was intended to eliminate all death and suffering attributed to cancer by the year 2015. While that goal was not met, progress toward the goal clearly was met.
Yes.
And I think that's the same, and I think that's the value of establishing, metrics like that to sense that we can make progress if there is the research money available. Because in the end, innovation is highly inefficient. It's trial and error. Immunotherapy was started in 1891 by William Cawley, who was trying to harness the immune system to fight bone cancer. And then it was kind of dismissed for a long period of time and then brought back like 2010, and the amazing results given all of that research that went into making that therapy that much more effective.
Yeah, Coley's toxin is, I did some work on it many years ago. It was, those original studies were fascinating. And some of the results, think about it, in the 1890s, they have this like cocktail, who knows what it really even was at the time, but there were some very dramatic results that happened, big tumors that just shrunk down to nothing. So it really formed the basis for people to think, geez, the immune system is pretty powerful. And if we direct it appropriately, oh my goodness, what we could accomplish. But I have a soft spot in my heart for Coley's toxin. So
personally, but Roswell as well. You have a center that focuses in on that, and
yes,
we were always taught that there's 3 ways to deal with cancer. You can cut it out through surgery, you can burn it out through radiation, you can kill it by the use of chemical therapy with toxic chemicals, and now immunotherapy is back at the forefront and offering so much promise relative to cancers that were previously thought to be very, very difficult to treat.
Yes, and the remarkable thing about some of these CAR T cells that are really like little factories, if you will, little missiles that go to exactly where they're needed. But for some acute leukemias and lymphomas, these would previously be deadly. People would die of their disease, and now they're cured, the C word, and with no evidence of disease. And so pretty remarkable. So the real excitement is to extend those studies into other tumor types. There's some interesting data in multiple myeloma, which For those of you out there know, multiple myeloma is a chronic disease. There's really no cure for it. All of the therapies that we have are just to allow you to live with it with some decent quality of life, and hope that you can continue that as long as possible. But there's now real hope that some of these CAR T cells will have an effect in diseases like multiple myeloma. So the promise is great. And I think that if we look over the next 3 to 5 years, because of initiatives like President Biden discussed today, because of initiatives that our governor and our state of New York have done, hopefully we're going to be able to see some really exciting things coming down and innovations over the next 3 to 5 years.
And it should be noted also, Candace, that the first example historically of public funding
Yes,
for
I know.
research was 100 years ago. It was a $10,000 grant from New York State to the predecessor of what is now Roswell Park.
And, it was pretty remarkable. Roswell Park, what a visionary. And it was really, I'm sure that people must have thought, why is the state of New York paying for anything like that? It was such an out of the box idea. And he really thought, he spent a lot of time even, Roswell played a big role in the National Cancer Institute being formed. This idea that the government, whether it be state or federal, should help to support these efforts, because if they didn't, we won't see cures, because this is such a deadly disease. And I think that was borne out to be true. Cancer has been a very difficult problem. There isn't sort of one cure, and we've made a lot of headway, but I'm hopeful that through efforts like what we just heard about today, we're going to make even more headway.
Yeah, that's great. And again, the president had mentioned several times, the great promise, the great potential of the messenger RNA, which is, that too has been around for 60 years.
Yes,
and there were just scientists, and this as an investigator, as a researcher, just persisted. And when they saw that there was a problem, they really, went in there, and that messenger RNA is the genetic material that tells a cell to make a protein, which is the active ingredient in the vaccine. And it's been incredible. You think about the lives that have been saved.
I know.
The money that's been saved. It's just incredible stuff.
It is. It's really, I get very, I know we've talked about this before. I get very excited about the total overall premise of the vaccine. I think Rebecca has a question for one of us. Rebecca?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So yeah, there are a couple of questions streaming into the chat. So I'll try to get to as many as we can. So I guess one thing first that I'm seeing, this really does seem like a very, very, very large initiative to take on. I mean, you have so many aspects and elements to tackle: screening, research on things like glioblastoma. Is there a first priority, like getting screening levels back up to where they were in 2019 before the pandemic hit?
Well, I think I can start out with that. I think yes. I mean, I think it's imperative that we get screening levels back up, and especially in disparate populations where their primary care sort of networks were a little fuzzy anyway. Many of those clinics and those avenues that folks had to be able to get the care that they needed have suffered during COVID. And so most definitely we need to get all of those things back up and running so people are getting their routine screening. But then we need to sort of expand our screening. And one of our initiatives is lung cancer screening, because people don't screen for lung cancer. Lung cancer has not had the advocacy that prostate, breast, and maybe colorectal cancer has. And so I think that we could really make an impact, because we all know if you know someone, a family member or a friend that gets diagnosed with lung cancer, many times it's already in stage 4. In other words, it's already metastasized because it's in your lungs and it's easy for the tumor cells to travel. Well, if there are ways to screen folks using low-dose CT screening, which is pretty easy to do, and if we have the infrastructure available, you could catch it at stage 1, where it could be, as Brian says, surgically cut out, and you would see a much different picture in those individuals. in their quality of life and also in saving the healthcare system and managing this very stage 3 and 4 disease. So I think there's lots to do in screening.
Yeah, and that screening is its objective is early detection. And as Candace has said, you have more options. The survival rate is much higher the earlier a cancer is diagnosed. And the president spoke exactly to what Candace just outlined a few minutes ago, and that was there are communities, Black and Brown communities, where this pandemic has revealed a fragility, a vulnerability as it relates to getting screening for early detection, and therefore the incidences of lethal cancer are much higher in those communities. So the initiative that was announced today at the White House is intended to enhance the screening opportunities for those underserved communities historically.
And then one more little tidbit. So there's conventional screening that's usually, it can be through x-rays, it can be through skin checks for skin cancer or mammography or colorectal colonoscopy. But the other real promise, and we have a big initiative in this, is what if you could take a tube of blood from you and detect some minute changes in your genetic, in the genetics of some of the cells that you have that says, you have a biomarker that's going to predispose you to a certain cancer. We need to screen you more carefully. That may sound like a pie in the sky, but I'm telling you, we're making steps to make that more a reality. And so that's the other promise that these funds that we talked about today for the Moonshot could help us with as well.
Excellent.
Excellent. I will note that that first question did come to us from Mike Desmond, which also sort of addressed a question that Sarah LaCorte also put to us in the question and answer. So thank you both for your questions. Another one that I would like to tackle, and this kind of combines an ask from Tracy Drury and also Jerry Zoremski. They're both kind of looking at, sort of just how big a financial impact are we talking here? I mean, in terms of the opportunities for grant funding, expanding the workforce specifically here at Roswell Park.
So I'll start that, Brian. So the beauty of money given for cancer research or any research is what it does is that the money leads to more money. So let's say you give someone $100,000 and they do pilot studies and turn this into even a bigger grant. I mean, our calculations are for every dollar that we get, we turn it into $13, $14 worth of new money for more cancer research. And so the money that's given here is going to have a huge impact because it's going to lead to more and more funds for this deadly disease.
Well, Roswell has been the anchor of the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. And the anchor or the impetus of the redevelopment of downtown Buffalo, converting older buildings to residential commercial mixed uses because of the demand that's created by the growth of Roswell and its sister institutions that are part of the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. Roswell is 14th in the nation, which has come up considerably. And therefore, those research dollars are going to go to those institutions that have proven to be particularly effective in developing in the area of immunotherapy and others, new treatments. And with that come rock star researchers like Candace and all of her colleagues that carry with them research dollars. And, when we say that when the next big advance is made, in terms of cancer therapy, we want that to be made at Roswell Park Cancer Institute. So I plan on advocating very aggressively for a good chunk of that $6 billion coming to Buffalo and Roswell. And the good thing is, Roswell speaks for itself. And if you look at the history over the past over 100 years, the first that Roswell owns as a national leader in immunotherapy, in chemotherapy, in photodynamic therapy, in virtually every area of cancer research that develop treatments, which are now standard treatments, not only in America, but throughout the world. So I think Roswell, under Candace's leadership, is disproportionately positioned strongly to be doing a lot of that groundbreaking work that will be financed by this $6 billion. It's called ARPA, after DARPA. And DARPA is Defense Advanced Research Products Agency. Every technology in your smartphone, the internet, global positioning satellite, voice activated applications, all came from that research. So as those technologies are advanced, they're then embraced by the private sector to turn them into products. So the president is calling this ARPA, Advanced Research Products Agency for Healthcare. And again, I think Buffalo, and in particular Roswell, is very, very, very well positioned. And when that research money comes here, it means more jobs. It means more people living here. It means more people that are supporting the commercial outlets of downtown Buffalo. So I think when you look back on what happened in Buffalo over the last 15 years in terms of downtown redevelopment, generally speaking, it was the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. But more specifically than any other institution, it was Roswell Park.
1000%. So I have one last thing, because I think we've kind of wrapped up everything in the chat and the Q&A. My question that can then lead into sort of both of your closing remarks. And I mean, just anything for both of you to reflect again, just upon what was announced today and what is it going to mean? I mean, again, we talked a lot about what it's going to mean locally, but just for the nation. I mean, this is spectacular hearing all of this news and this positivity surrounding a disease that can be so heartbreaking.
Well, I'll go back to my sort of original statement at the beginning. This initiative is really significant, and it's going to save lives, and it's going to make an impact. The whole country and all of us, Roswell Park especially, we're really poised for some really significant out-of-the-box treatments, approaches, early detection, and I think these funds are going to help us catapult this into practice that's going to be helpful across the board for those folks that are suffering from this terrible disease.
Yeah, just I would say that I have been looking for a president that understood the importance of public investment, federal investment in cancer research. And unfortunately, this president, based on a personal tragedy, lost his son to brain cancer, an 18-month struggle, understands because he's lived it. And I think when you look for new opportunities, you look for narratives. And unfortunately, the tragedy of the narrative, whether it's the Joya family, turning a personal tragedy into a life-giving force through the Roswell Park Alliance, whether it's President Biden losing his son, who had nothing but promise and hope and potential in front of him, to cancer, he's turning that, that sad moment in his life into a life-giving force for future cancer patients that will have more life-saving, life-quality treatment options available. And we are blessed to have Candice Johnson and Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center to be at the forefront of that initiative.
Thanks, Brian.
Great. Thank you. And I think that it about wraps it, unless Congressman, there's anything else.
No, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks, Candace.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to see you. Hopefully I'll see you in person soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.